everyone, Kate Berkner here today with Dr. Tom Phelan, author and creator of 123 Magic, as well as the author of The Manager Mom Epidemic. Dr. Phelan, welcome.
Good morning, Kay.
How are you today?
Pretty good. Spring is here, so I'm in good spirits.
Thank goodness. All that snow is melting, you guys. We've had so much snow here in the Chicagoland area, and finally we're getting to see the grass again. It's lovely.
Yeah, there's green stuff under there.
There is. It's so weird. I forgot what that was. So today we are talking about self-esteem. Obviously, as parents and as people who work with parents and children, we want kids to grow up to be happy and to be healthy. And part of that is having a good sense of self-esteem. But what is it? Where does it come from? And as a parent or a caring adult, what impact can you have on a child's self-esteem? So, Dr. Phelan, let's start with the basics. What exactly is self-esteem?
Well, I've got a bit of a surprise for you. I don't think self-esteem is what we usually think it is. We make it into some sort of religious or spiritual experience. Actually, it's an instinct. And it's an instinct, it's an adaptive instinct that's shared by all human beings. That's the clue to its being an instinct, is that it's universal throughout the species. And it's a cognitive emotional instinct that goes off at different times of our life and different times of our day when we're doing something that Mother Nature feels as either good, adaptive, constructive, or not good, adaptive, and constructive. So when the self-esteem, we do something, say we help somebody else, the self-esteem instinct will go off, we'll feel proud of ourselves. When our parents praise us for doing something well, the self-esteem instinct will go off at that time, and then it'll go away for a while until something else happens. But you got to think of it differently. It's an instinct that's a little sloppier than we usually think of it as being, but it's there and it's powerful.
Got it. So it sounds like it's something that we all naturally have, but of course there are people who grow up and they don't have a strong sense of self-esteem. So, where are kids getting this self-esteem from?
Well, you can think of it as there are several important domains, we call them. So I call them self-esteem domains, where kids and adults evaluate themselves on a regular basis. One is competence. So if you're a child, competence, say in school, is a big thing. And a lot of self-esteem is going to be related to that. Competence in sports or athletic endeavors is also a big thing. And you're going to have some self-esteem moments that are going to be related to that as well. How you get along with other people, what we call positive interpersonal attention, or PIA, is a big thing. And disturbingly, this you're not going to like this. Research has shown repeatedly that global self-esteem in people across cultures, across ages and everything, the thing that it's most often associated with is perceived physical appearance. A lot of people are going to turn off their computers after I say that. It's a real stunner. The research is very consistent on that. And we're still, I think, trying to figure out what to do with that finding.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say perceived physical appearance and not necessarily objective physical appearance. What's the difference between those?
That's correct. You can have a lot of people who may be fairly physically attractive who don't see themselves as being that way. They think, well, my ears are too big or one thing or another. If you took a survey of everybody and they'd say, well, this person's pretty good looking, the person themselves doesn't see it that way. Now that's not real common, but it does happen often enough that can be a real problem for some people. People are often, with regards to physical appearance, more negative in evaluating themselves and overly positive sometimes in evaluating other people. But you hit a good nail on the head there, and that word perception is a big part of the problem because it can be distorted.
Absolutely. Well, I remember, I think it was Dove a couple years ago did an advertising campaign, and the commercial was really a story they told where they had people describe themselves to a sketch artist, and then they had strangers describe those people to a sketch artist, and then they put the two sketches next to each other. And inevitably, the one where the stranger described the person was always a more physically attractive sketch than the one where the person had described themselves. So I think that really illustrates your point that a lot of people are harder on themselves when it comes to physical appearance than they are on others.
Yeah, no, I think it's true. And there's another thing in our society. I mean, it's humility, whether it's fake or not fake, but you're not supposed to go around bragging about how good looking you are. Nobody does that. It's a little more socially acceptable to be a little more self-denigrating.
Absolutely. So let's sidetrack for just a minute. We're going to go off script here because this is such a big part of self-esteem. What what can parents be doing with their kids, or what should they not be doing with their kids when it comes to this perceived physical attractiveness?
Yeah, I think most parents would agree. What you don't want to do is make a big deal of it, and a lot of parents are not going to do that much anyway. But I think you need to help kids see it objectively, because for many kids, this is really, they say, "I'm not handsome, I'm not pretty, I'm not good looking," and oftentimes that's true. Most of us are average looking, and I think what people miss is the fact that what percentage of the population would you consider is hot or pretty or handsome or good looking? And to me, it's less than 10%. So, join the club. There's 95% of us don't fall into that category. And I think it's important to not get upset about it. And for parents not to make a big thing and overreact to it all the time. But I think that's the biggest antidote to this disturbing finding, is the fact that it's a big part of people's self-esteem, but most people are not exceptionally attractive. That's just the fact of the matter. So maybe it's not such a big deal.
Yeah, I think we see it in particularly in teens, but as kids get younger and younger, the way that media can affect their perceptions of themselves. And so much of, people who are in commercials and people who are in movies and television shows and all that kind of thing, even people that you see online on social media channels, they're using filters and makeup, and the people who are paid a lot of money to be on camera and be attractive, it's because they're in that, probably not even top 10%, they're in that top 2%.
Yeah, yeah.
And so understanding that comparing yourself to people who have made it their job to be physically attractive isn't actually a realistic expectation for anyone who's just kind of a normal human living in the world.
No, it's not. And you can be, right in the middle in terms of good looking. I'm just plain average. Odds are you're still going to find your soulmate. You're still going to get married, live together, have kids. You have just as much a shot at a good life as anybody else does, including the people that are super attractive. And interesting what you mentioned, that a lot of commercials now are featuring people that are less good looking, which I find very intriguing.
Absolutely. So, okay, we've talked about how parents can kind of impact and deal with that physical attractiveness aspect. Oh, what else can I, as a parent, do to have an impact on my child's self esteem as they grow up?
What you want basically is a child that's competent. And large part of competence is independence. So think competence, independence, interpersonal skills. So if you think of those things, you're going to probably, those are the things you want to encourage. So you want help your child get in activities that are conducive to that. You want them to see themselves realistically, to appreciate the strengths. You want to praise them when they're getting along well with other people, when they're working hard in school, and things like that. Basically, I think the parents need to understand that self-esteem ultimately is going to be earned in the big bad world, and so you got to help kids with the big bad world, just as you did when you were. Think back to your own growing up. You were in the big bad world. You knew what self-esteem was all about, because you were doing it. You were doing it every day. You didn't have any romance about it or delusions. I don't think. I think we all grew up kind of in the college of hard knocks. So, but think that big bad world: competence, interpersonal skills, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting because I think this actually ties into a lot of what you teach in the Manager Mom epidemic, because that's really about teaching kids to be competent, teaching them how, when you teach a kid how to do something that really contributes, in the case of Manager Mom epidemic, contributes to the family and contributes to the household in a meaningful way,
Right.
right? It's not go clean your room, it's something that really makes a difference to the family overall, that's going to make them feel more competent and it's going to make them feel more confident.
Exactly. A big part of self-esteem, what you're saying is a big part of self-esteem is making a meaningful contribution to the personal groups that you're part of, including your family. And as parents, we are absolutely lousy when it comes to getting our kids to contribute meaningfully to the family. Clean your room, take out the garbage, doesn't cut it.
And I think that there's this sort of there's this belief around letting kids be kids, and we as parents should be serving our children and letting them have our childhood. But I think in some cases that actually, does them a disservice. I know that my mom was talking to a friend of hers whose child went off to college and called her and said, "Mom, I don't know how to use a can opener. Can you explain it to me?" Which at the age of, 18, when most kids are going off to college, that feels like something you could have reasonably learned. But, if that child had never been asked to help make dinner for the family or make dinner for the family on their own, it may not be a skill that they've had to learn before that. And so they're going out into the world a little bit less prepared.
And a good point. And speaking of 18-year-olds, about half or more of 18-year-olds who do go off to college have been wakened up every morning by their parents. As seniors in high school, their parents wake them up to get them ready for school. Now, do you think an 18-year-old can wake up by themselves? I think so.
I hope so. So, okay, fantastic. So to kind of wrap up here, what is the biggest truth that you would want parents to know about self-esteem?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you can't you're not going to live your life through your kids. I mean, you're going to feel some of their self-esteem trials and all that kind of thing, but ultimately it's their behavior in the big bad world that's going to make them or break them. And most of them are not going to be broken. They'll do fine. They're going to have friends. They're going to produce grandkids for you and those kinds of things as well. So it's kind of like calm down. Self-esteem is an instinct. It's a helper instinct. It's to help motivate you to do things well, but it's not the be all and the end all. And one of life's best moments is non-self-esteem moments where you're just not worrying about it. It's you and your child maybe cooking a meal or doing a jigsaw puzzle or whatever, and self-esteem is not an issue at all.